Good evening to you. It is Saturday, November 4th at 11:33 p.m. Don't forget, clocks change tonight. If you have the old-fashioned type of clocks, fall back an hour as as the time changes tonight. Purdue lost a pretty we lost pretty big game. They lost it going away. Purdue lost big at Michigan. Boy, oh boy, what happened there? My finding my words was as bad as Purdue's offense tonight. Purdue loses 41-13 at Michigan. They lose their fourth straight game. It feels like that Illinois win is about 1,000 years ago right now. But I'll talk about it. First, let me say thanks to our sponsors. When you're on campus, when you're near campus, when you're in West Lafayette, when you're in Lafayette, you should put it in your plans to head over to AJ's on Vine, grab a pint, grab a burger, burgers, beef, and beer. EatAJ's.com. Good folks, good food. Also, if you're in the market for a t-shirt or a sweatshirt, there's tons of cool stuff over at Home Field Apparel. Head over to homefieldapparel.com. Once you've found the perfect item or items, enter Boiled23 at checkout, and you'll get 15% off. Pretty good. They've got some new basketball stuff, but the one that caught my eye in their advertisement was the three-peat t-shirt that I think has been around for a little while. Maybe I can be corrected on that. But three-peat is, of course, close to my heart because it happened when I was on campus at Purdue way back in the middle 90s. So, mercy. Purdue loses big tonight. This had some, this game, especially in the third quarter, but the second quarter too, boy, it had the feeling of a darker era in Purdue sports, where in Purdue football, when Purdue's offense couldn't move the ball anywhere but between the 40s. And really, they didn't even get past the 50. Michigan had a 14-point lead before you could sneeze, 17-point lead really quickly. And Purdue was out of the game. Tough product to watch if you're a Purdue fan. If you're a Michigan fan, I don't know if it's all that entertaining. Funny thing is, Purdue scored more points against Michigan than anybody has this year. We had a discussion, the Boiled Sports guys, about how weak of a schedule Michigan has played, and it's pretty noteworthy. I can't remember a contender for the national title playing a schedule like this deep into the season, where they really haven't played anybody that's testing them. Sure, they handle their business. They knock teams off, knock them around. No problem. Whether it's with or without the help of a special sideline member of the coaching staff. Don't have them anymore. Sadly, the Stallions era in Michigan is over. I was gonna post a quick cast just reacting to Ryan Walters coming on his show on Thursday and just saying obvious things that were correct. The media acted like he had done something that he had broken a cardinal sin, but Walters is correct. There are many Big Ten coaches that agree with him. I think there's up to 9 coaches, some sources are saying, that say Michigan should be punished by the conference in behind closed door meetings. I mean, this isn't the false outrage is silly. You have documented cheating. The crazy thing is Purdue also did a quick internal investigation. If you didn't see this, Michigan had bought Stallions had bought tickets to 6 Purdue games, I think dating back to last year, and there were 2 this year. So the funny thing is, if you're buying that many games for Purdue, what are you doing for Ohio State and the programs that you think are a legitimate contender, or a team that is in your way of getting to the playoff? You'd go pretty far, according to many reports, and I tend to believe a lot of what's being said. On one hand, you have Michigan fans telling us, no big deal. No big whoop, nothing happened. And then you had a story of first Stallions was fired, and then, of course, he resigned. But all problems have gone away in Michigan. Everything's on the up and up now, and onward and upward. And they had no time. They didn't need to cheat versus Purdue. They didn't need to steal any signs versus Purdue. Purdue talked about, and Walters talked about, going to a different huddle look, changing signs. None of it mattered. None of it mattered. Purdue's offense right now is a completely non-competitive unit. It's incredible. If you look at, and I posted something on the Twitter feed that showed how the offensive line started the Michigan game and how they looked at this point in the game. And I think it was in the third quarter. And you had Gus Hartwig playing tackle. It's incredible what they've had to do with that patchwork lineup because of injuries. So let's look at all the factors that are real. Number one, the offensive line is being held together by duct tape. Dagnabbit. Two, I'm not going to do that very long. Number two, Hudson Card has a hard time making the right decision right now. He looks panicked. He is, when he needs to run the ball, sometimes he holds on to it, tries to make a play. When he needs to just pass it, he doesn't let the receivers come out of their breaks. There's a lot happening on Card's side that I can understand it, right? Because he's getting hit a lot, but at the same time, his decision making isn't great, and I won't question his physical abilities. Like, Jay talks about how much of a fan he is of his potential, and I tend to still agree, but he is not playing football that is good enough to get Purdue even close to winning. And then finally, I think the play calling for the most part has been extremely predictable, extremely boring, and the end result is Purdue does like what they've done today, what they did versus Nebraska, what they continue to do, which just got to spin their wheels and not go anywhere, or they don't even spin their wheels. It kind of looks like they're just going out there, get 3 and out, maybe 4 and out early in the game. I think they had a couple possessions where they get 1 first down on a good run. Tracy looked good at times today. Maccabee looked good at times today. But the receivers, there's another factor. There isn't a go-to receiver. You have a little bit of everything. The problems last week was they dropped the ball this week. They're not running routes where they can get open. And Michigan was able to blitz often. I mean, when Michigan needed to dial something up, they would blitz and they would have man-to-man coverage on the outside. And they had no problem holding Purdue's receivers from making a play, from running a route that would create space. There's a lot of problems on the offense side of the ball. On the defense side of the ball, you've got a bunch of guys that look like they are scratching and clawing, trying to make something happen. Scarton and particularly Scarton and Jenkins look great. Thieneman continues to play above his age, beyond his age. Sanusi Kane looked great for the first half today, made some big plays. Brevard I think he had a sack. The defense is grinding. They're doing what they can, but this team is totally incomplete right now. And there's a bunch of things you can look at, but the fact that you can make comparisons to a dark era of Purdue where Purdue comes in games like this and they look like they're just they don't belong, that's tough medicine. That's tough to swallow. Obviously, Michigan is a horrible place for Purdue to play historically. Purdue doesn't win in the Big House hardly ever. I think they won. I could look up this in like 5 seconds. You guys can tell me. But I think they've won there once in the past. It's either once or twice since the late 60s. I've been to a game there. Purdue got their clock claimed when Kyle Orton was quarterback. It's a tough place to play for good Purdue teams, let alone Purdue teams that look like this team right now. Let's dig into the stats, shall we, a little bit, although you may not want to do it. Let's see. Like I said, 41-13 loss. Purdue's now lost 4 straight games. But how'd they do it today? Well, Hudson Card went 12 of 28, 144 yards. Slightly better than he did versus Nebraska. I think he had 100 yards passing versus Nebraska. He had a TD and an interception. Tyrone Tracy, one of the bright spots, averaged 5.5 carries on 11 carries, 61 yards today. No touchdowns. Maccabee, 13 carries and 38 yards. On the other side of the ball, Purdue's defense did a really good job keeping Michigan in check for the most part, except for one run. Samaj Morgan just ripped one off. I think it was a jet sweep to the left where he had a 44-yard touchdown. When he got on his horse, he was gone. Only guy between him and the goal line was Thieneman, who the angle wasn't good for a guy with that type of speed. He could not track him down. I think he barely touched him as he crossed the goal line, but Purdue was totally fooled by that play. It had them on their heels up front. One of the few real big defensive breakdowns, especially against the run. Like I said, Purdue's defensive front looked pretty solid. Deion Burks led all receivers with 3 receptions. He had 43 yards receiving. Rashawn Rice had a big catch, I believe, at the beginning of the second half or at the end of the first half. Can't remember. And then he went out of the game with injury, which was tough to see because I've been waiting for Rice to make some noise this year. Jaden Dixonville continues to be one of the bright spots, especially for the freshman class. He had 4 receptions again, 32 yards. Deion Burks, though, he had the lone touchdown right at the end of the game, which was nice to see. This is a lot. Purdue's offense has done this a couple times this year, 2 or 3, where the game's completely out of reach, and then they get like a cheap touchdown. But it was a great pass. Hudson Card put the ball in the money. It was just a floater of a ball, but it was right in his arms. Burks struggled today. I think he had 2 drops, at least one, that I can remember, where the ball was just on the money right between his hands, and he barely even slowed it down. Beginning to believe that Burks is having a hard time. Just things are in his head when he comes across the middle that he isn't going to pull it down because a little yippy. But Tyrone Tracy had 2 receptions, and then Garrett Miller had a weird play. He had a reception, but he went out on injury real quickly. I couldn't understand what it was. Watched the replay a couple times. I still didn't see it. People I was watching with, my son, my wife, and a friend of mine, said he got cleated right in the shin, just kind of got whipped, and it broke open the skin on his shin. Very weird injury. I'm not laughing at the injury. Just the nature of the injury is weird because it looked like, okay, did he twist his ankle? Did he bust his knee? He kind of went down like he was shot because, I think he hopped for a second, then he went down. But everything's okay. He came back in about a play later. He was fine. His shin and calf were wrapped together. So let's see what else happened on the defensive side of the field. Antonio Stevens is a bit of a bright spot. He had 4 tackles. He's kind of coming into his own. Looked really good. Botros Alessandro had 7 tackles, which is an incredible number. And he had a couple big plays. There's some of the defensive back, some of the younger guys are starting to show out a little bit. There's some promise there. Kane had 6 tackles. Markevius Brown had 6 tackles. Kane also had a tackle for a loss early in the game. Thieneman had 5 tackles. Keeps being dead steady. Karloff just had 4. Let's see, anybody else? Yeah, Nick Scarton had 2 sacks, and let me see. Jenkins kind of registered it's a quiet game for him. He only had 3 tackles and 1 tackle for a loss, but he was wreaking havoc, and Michigan was doing what they could to stay away from him. Smartly game plan for him, and he looks solid. Continues to look solid. Jeffrey Mabah had 4 tackles, but he had, I think, a pretty boneheaded penalty, if I'm remembering correctly, roughing the passer. Not much else to talk about, really, other than it's a disappointment not because they lose. I think any level-headed Purdue fan, I saw one guy on Knucklehead Central saying that he thought Purdue would get it done. And it's nice when you have a fan that just believes they're going to get it done, but there's really no reason to think that they were going to change course and pull this upset. This isn't like some of the years where they had, number one, Purdue doesn't upset Michigan like they do Ohio State historically. Sure, every coaching staff is a little different, but it just didn't look like this team had the juice to get it done versus one of the nation's best teams. So let's see. Travis Brennan said, it just sounds like Travis Brennan was there. Tough to be there, I'm sure. John Younger said, glad the team fought like they did. Yeah, and the defense did. The offense, man, I don't know. Michael Hogg said defense played their tails off tonight. So, yeah, defense continues to play well. They show promise. You're not going to win games, so the defense isn't playing that well where they're completely neutralizing an offense, and the offense is not there. That offense at times looks exactly like Iowa's, where there's no chance they're going to move the ball during times of the game. I mean, and it's becoming a recurring theme. It's becoming horribly painful to watch as a fan. I think it demoralizes Purdue fans, especially. I had a couple people on Twitter, a couple interactions talking about it's weird we're so used to seeing offenses that are potent even when the teams are bad that this is a tough product. It's a tough product for Purdue right now, Purdue fans. So you got to keep the faith and hope you guys hold on during this because it's not over yet. I think you've got Minnesota, Northwestern, and IU left. IU, like I said this in half joking, but IU is in a position where they are actually starting to climb out. You can see they played really well versus Penn State. Today they beat Wisconsin. They look like they are doing what you hope a team can do. Even a bad team is starting to show life at the end of the season. IU's remaining schedule is pretty nicely set up for them to get 3 more wins. Purdue is, of course, the final game, but I think you've got Illinois before that, Michigan State. That's not a tough group of teams, and IU, like I said, is fighting. Their offense is playing well. They had the lead almost the entire game versus Wisconsin. I think that'd be it's going to be tough. They come into Ross-Ade with the ability to earn a bowl game. They're going to be very motivated. I think Purdue will be motivated as well. But, man, Purdue's got to find something on offense before then, and we'll see if they can do it versus lesser teams. But they have struggled mightily the last few weeks. It just feels like that 44-point game versus Illinois is a distant memory right now. Doesn't even feel like it's the same season because the style of play is so different right now. Let's see. Jeff says air raid offense is amazing. Yeah, it is awesome. The air raid offense is great. I don't know which thing. I've been trying to figure this out, and you guys may have too. Which problem is the biggest problem? Obviously, offensive line problem is a big deal. But I think the biggest problem, maybe with the coaching staff, if you say offense, defense, the whole thing, is their inability to change when things aren't going very well, or a plan or a game plan didn't work. The inability to alter that game plan, the inability to alter that plan is something that has been an ongoing theme. The offense, though, has so many problems with personnel right now. You have so many injuries. This is, I don't see a light at the end of the tunnel this season at all. Gosh, I hope I'm way wrong and there's some switch that goes off and then all of a sudden Hudson Card looks like a beast and the play calling looks inventive. Like I said, I mentioned this, I think, in the Handsome Hour last week. Watch Kansas play and watch what they're doing to try to create mismatches before the snap. And then watch what they do after the snap. So the play calling's good, but before they're doing so many things with movements to try to get people out of position. They do it every single play. Purdue, it seems like the inventiveness, the creativity is just impossible to find offensively. And maybe that's a byproduct. So if you're a big Graham Harrell apologist, you say, well, what's he supposed to do? This offensive line is just taped together. They're doing everything they can. I have no issues with the way the offensive line is playing because the guys are not playing their positions, many guys, and then guys who are too deep type players are starting or playing every down. There's a lot of things. You see guys get nicked up, offensive line, linemen go down. They're doing everything to get up that next play. I don't have any problem with those guys. The receivers are tougher for me. We're going to use like disappointment or just head scratching or whatever you want to call it. Receivers have gotten progressively worse this season. Hudson Card's decision-making has gotten worse. Like I said, I'm hitting the same points. I'm just trying to figure out what's going on other than this team does not look like it has the ability to get off the mat to me. And I am trying to find, I don't know, maybe you guys can sound off. Tell me which game you think is most likely for Purdue to get another or 2 or 3 more wins. If they get to 5 wins, I think it's a flat-out miracle. I think that's something we can all celebrate. You know, go out dance in the streets afterward like they won a conference championship because the product leaves a lot to be desired. Let's see. Travis Brennan, who's at the game, said some lady kept yelling 2 and 6 at the brigade members. Well, they can count well, I guess. I mean, Purdue's not good. Congrats. John Harrell, who was at the game, good buddy of mine. How do you call this an air raid offense? I don't know, John. I mean, you were there in person. You got to see it in all of its glory, and I think you've been to many games at home. I've gone to many games, and This is the funniest thing someone said is, when does the air raid start? That's the best. It's the best tongue-in-cheek question of the season by Purdue fans, and I don't know. I haven't seen any any evidence of an air raid. Let's see. Zach Young says, does anyone else see the Purdue football tweet that was a picture of Freehill kicking and said air raid? What? Wait. So Purdue football put that up? Oh, man. So, there's a positive. Here's a positive. Purdue kicked and successfully kicked 2 field goals. They went 2 for 2. So if we're looking for a bright spot, it's the fact that 2 middle range, short to middle distance field goals were made tonight. That is a positive, because, damn it, special teams has been bad. Yeah, that's a big deal. It's a big deal. So that's what we're going to celebrate. Justin Hood says Hudson doesn't look like he trusts anyone, not his receivers, definitely not his O-line. Okay, Justin, so you're repeating something that was said by the broadcast team, I believe. And I understand the point. But Hudson Card, there are other things that are happening other than just trust. There are plays that are there, and he's not making the right decision. Like I said, I'm not going to second guess the guy's ability. Number one, with his feet, I think he's an amazingly athletic quarterback. He put on display on a big run. So I think there were 2 really good, maybe 3 really good play calls the entire game, in my opinion. Plays that were successful. They kind of got Michigan on their heels. One of them was the Hudson Card's designed run in the first half. Great run. Really, he had another design run in the second half. It was also pretty good, but it only yielded like 8 yards. But he's great with his feet. He's got a good arm, but his decision making, and it may be because of confidence. I don't know what the answer is here. I really don't know. What I do know is that the easiest position to blame in football is the quarterback, and the easiest thing to say is, that guy needs to be better. It is easier for me to say that. And it's way too broad of a brush to paint with. It's not Hudson Card's fault. I'm going to put it again. I'm going to go up the ranks. I'm going to say this is Graham Harrell's issue. And I'm going to keep saying it until I see some evidence otherwise. Let's see. Brian T says, how about that AOC? Brian, I think you tweeted at me. I think that's right. It's awesome. O'Connell's been given the reins, in case you haven't been paying attention, for the Raiders. So that's fun. So I think Brian, you're the guy that tweeted at me, and yeah, it'd be a lot easier to talk about Aiden O'Connell and other Purdue players in the pros than what we see on Saturdays right now. Brian says almost got the balloons with 2 great play calls. Yeah, I don't think they lit up. I don't think the balloons lit up. I think I brought it down quick enough, and you've already seen me accidentally hold up. I count like that for a number 1, and that gave me the damn thumbs up bubble. So I got to turn these things off, and I don't know how to do it. Let's see. Thanks, Brian, for tweeting that. Thank you. Travis Brennan says, we don't send people in motion pre-snap. Yeah, that's one of the things that, gosh, I think you can read a lot of what the linebackers doing if you send guys in motion, right? And they're not doing it. Michigan had somebody in motion every play, another good play. Just look at, gosh darn it, it's tough to say, okay, yeah, it's easy to, Michigan is better than Purdue, bar none, better at every position, better coached, the whole thing. But look at the way that team plays, like the way they prepare, the precision of the offense. Mercy. Purdue's defense, though, like I said, I think you have multiple NFL linemen there. I think Thieneman eventually will be in the league, getting paid to do what he does. So there are guys there on defense. It's an incomplete group. They need more. Friend of mine asked me, how's the recruiting look for next year? Is there a chance that they could bump up with that? It's a lot to ask freshmen to come in right away and be the shot in the arm. I know it happens sometimes. And we can think of, Purdue fans, we can think of freshmen that came in right away and were difference makers, no doubt. But it's a lot to ask freshmen. For every Rondale Moore out there, I can think of a Drew Brees, right? Drew Brees, as a freshman, hardly played at all. And that was multi reasons. Tiller wanted to make him wait, but also he wasn't any better than Billy Dicken. There's not going to be a freshman, I think, that is better than Hudson Card. I don't think you're going to have any of that. And even in the trenches, it's even harder. It's more to ask for true freshmen to come in and make a big difference and be physically ready to make a difference. Now, the transfer portal, this is obviously where Purdue's going to have to make some hay in the offseason to make a difference. But it's going to be a long slog until this personnel is up to snuff. That's what it seems to me. Yeah, Brian T says, Purdue Pete trolling University of Michigan with the Ohio State gear spying. That's very funny. If you haven't seen it, check out our Twitter feed. I retweeted it. It's very funny. That's probably the highlight of the night is Purdue Pete getting involved in the I don't even know. We don't call it Spygate. That's taken by the Patriots. But is there a nickname for this scandal? I don't know if there is. So thanks to everybody for tuning in live. Thanks to those listening on delay as well. Check us out on Monday. Hopefully the conversation will be a little more lively. We'll have had a chance to laugh it up a little bit and enjoy the fact that, hey, not that big of a deal. Sun is going to rise tomorrow morning, an hour later. Wait, it doesn't work that way on the time change. But the sun will rise tomorrow. Things are going to get better. It's just tough to go through this football season like this because I think so many people, when I say we're hopeful, I thought 5 wins. I don't think they're getting to 5 wins. Like I said, every week another goal seems to fall, meaning something the team wanted to do seems to become an impossibility. So thanks for tuning in. Karen Grulock had a great point here. No love lost between the coaches. If you didn't see it, there was a blow-by handshake by Ryan Walters and Harbaugh. I think that was more Walters doing it. That goes back to the beginning of this post-game wrap, me talking about what Walters said. Walters is holding a grudge. I think he finds this to be bullcrap, and I think it is. The funny thing is, I've been trying to do this all week. What would have Brom done? Because he keeps everything so he would act like there was no issue at all, regardless of the outcome of that game. I believe we never saw. I mean, Brom got mad every now and again, but he tried to play everything close to the vest. I think that was just the way he did. And once again, it will endear Walters to many Purdue fans. The fact that he did blow by Harbaugh that way, and the fact they did speak up on his show this week, and others, they're going to say, I wish he wouldn't do that. I wish he wouldn't say that. Up to you how you see it, but it's definitely a big contrast from previous season. So Monday, 9 p.m. Let's see. Purdue plays at 6:30 on Monday, so that game will that handsome hour will be right after the game versus Samford. Samford's doing a pretty funny ad campaign right now. If you haven't seen it, they're saying they're going to put the smallest guy that they've got up against Edie on the jump ball, and they say they've got him training hard. It's kind of funny if you haven't seen it on Twitter and other social media. I, as a 5'4" guy, I do not like the fact that they're exploiting this young man's height for their benefit. I think it's wrong. We short guys need to stand together, start some sort of union. As a people group, it's been tough for our people. That's a joke. I think it's pretty clever for Samford to do this. I think the whole thing is bringing good attention to their program. Very smart. Their sports media people are doing what we've become so accustomed with Purdue's sports media people are awesome. They do a great job. They're awesome with those little vignettes. They're great with great photographers and video people but Samford, with a smaller budget, has done a pretty good job with this thing. So check it out if you haven't. Thanks for tuning in. Purdue will play Minnesota next week in Ross-Ade. Hope you're there. If you see me, say hi. But if you don't, let's not give away the week. Check us out Monday at 9 p.m. After the Samford game for the Handsome Hour. We look forward to seeing you. God bless you. Hammer down. Talk to you soon.